Holy smokes. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, and if you want to donate to our channel, support our channel through a super chat donation during the show, hit the $, put a comment in, and we'll get to it as soon as possible. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway in Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room and in the phone calls later in the show. We've got a stacked show tonight. Oh my God! I had to push stuff out of the way. Oh my God! To fit in what we need to talk about tonight. I was going to do a whole thing on recruiting reform, the ideas circulating around the industry about the college football recruiting options, because they've got to alleviate the pain of December. Can't have all this stuff going on in December, especially when you're going to have a college football 12-team playoffs starting in December. I don't want to start on a rant too early in the show, but there's a big topic that I want to talk about, but I can't. Not tonight. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. We're all waiting, right? We're sitting here minding our own business. We're all waiting for the news, any news coming out of the Dallas, Texas meeting, the Dallas meeting with the 10 FBS commissioners and Jack Swarbrick, the athletic director of Notre Dame. We're just, we're waiting. We're waiting. And out of nowhere, boom! Breaking news. Dartmouth basketball players or athletes, there seems to be a little bit of a mix reporting coming out. Either way, Dartmouth athletes are deemed employees of the college. Dartmouth College. This is massive breaking news. Now it's going to get repealed. It's going to get appealed, of course. Dartmouth's going to appeal the ruling. A lot of great commentary has been flooding in on X, on message boards in regards to this breaking news. We're going to be reading some of that. There's also the National Labor Relations Board stuff going on at USC in California. That's a little bit different than this. It's bigger in scope. The one in California, what they're trying to do is deem the student athletes, the athletes, to be employees of not just the colleges, but the conferences and potentially the NCAA itself. This one, Dartmouth being a private university, this one pertains just to the college, be the employer, while the athletes are the employees. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into some explanation of some very smart people out there, unlike your host. Thank you, John, for the super chat. Anchovies, mushrooms, olive, calzone time. Very good. I approve. As long as you're not mixing up cheese and meat together. I approve. Thank you, John Till, for your generosity once again. Now, there's other stuff I want to talk about. And we are going to talk about it. At the back end of this monologue, we're going to talk about Washington State and Oregon State. You saw the title, the screen title of today's live show. Washington State, Oregon State takes moonshot in Dallas, Texas. They're taking the moonshot. They're going for it. I don't think they're going to get what they want, but they want the whole enchilada in Dallas. We're going to be going through an article from On3, Eric Prisbell, on that situation. It was from Ross Dellinger, the original reporter who reported on this. Washington State and Oregon State in Dallas today and tomorrow are not only gumming up the works when it comes to, they want to make sure they get voting, the same voting rights they had when they were a Pac-12 member, but they want they want guarantees on distribution money. We talked about this. They're definitely not going to get the same voting. We don't know how the votes are going to go. We know that the Big Ten and the SEC, they're trying to get more weight on their votes, have them be more calculated, more votes within the two conferences. Oregon State, Washington State basically want to have everything they've had before this last wave of realignment. Now, and it sounds like the Cougars and the Beavers want their conference, whatever conference they create out of the Mountain West, potentially, or some sort of Frankenstein conference, some Mountain West schools or AA schools. It sounds like they want autonomy for distribution coming to them. And look, we know that for any changes to take place for 2024 and 2025, it has to be unanimous. It has to be unanimous. Everybody has to agree. But what Washington State and Oregon State, for the NCAA, they're considered a 2-team conference. But for the college playoff committee, the managers, they're not considered a conference. They're not considered a conference. It has to be an 8 teams to be in a conference. So, I don't know. Look, Washington State and Oregon State, they're taking the moonshot. We're going to go talk about it with an Eric Prisbell article on On3. But we're not going to start there. We're definitely not going to start there. Oh, we got so much to go through. I'm Amanda Kristovich, Front Office Sports, breaking news. NLRB rules that Dartmouth men's basketball players are employees of Dartmouth and are allowed to go forward with an election to create a union. Story to come. I'm going to show you guys some really good, just give me a second here. Matt Brown starts to analyze what this ruling could possibly mean. Let's take a look. And then we're going to look at somebody else as well. Some really good stuff here. Matt Brown, there's going to be an appeal for sure. But if Dartmouth basketball players fall under the employment classification, a whole hell of a lot of other athletic programs beyond P5 football and basketball will too. Now, he sort of changes that, but we'll get into it. It could be where your field hockey student athletes are going to have to be considered employees. And that might be the death knell, the death rattle for sure of some of these or many of these non-revenue making sports. Matt Brown goes on to say, the NLRB Dartmouth decision reiterates that the profitability of any given business does not affect the employee status of the individuals who perform work for that business. It doesn't matter if a sport loses money. So again, your field hockey, a lot of sport, I'm just using field hockey as an example. A lot of sports now, the athletes, if this, if the appeal doesn't go Dartmouth's way, the USC NLRB ruling goes against USC, and that's going to be probably decided sometime in April. We're going to hit an article on that. These Olympic sports are now going to be even in more trouble. Potentially. Matt Brown again, the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, also found that even though Dartmouth men's basketball players don't get an athletic scholarship, remember, the Ivy schools don't give out athletic scholarships. The various other benefits they earn from playing, shoes, tickets, etc., constituted compensation. If that's the standard, surely that would include virtually all D1 athletes. If that is the standard, if your swimming and diving team is wearing apparel, swimsuits, caps that are given to you by the university, then that's going to be constituted compensation, right? Another interesting note. The board notes that since every school in the Ivy League is private and thus under NLRB jurisdiction, the concerns with Northwestern football and state labor laws do not apply in this particular circumstance. Now, I want to get through real quick another gentleman's comments on this. If I can find it, hopefully I can. Give me a moment, everybody. Here we go. This is the Tulane sports law professor, host of Sports Wise, ASP consultant, NFL analyst, sports industry consultant, Gabe Feldman. Gabe Feldman, this is at Sports Law Guy. He goes through a whole lot of what he believes this all means. Let's take a look. Let me pop this up a little bit higher so you guys can see it. Okay. The fact that this is from Gabe Feldman, the fact that all Ivy League schools are private makes it more likely that the full NLRB will uphold the ruling because all Ivy athletes will have the ability to unionize. Although collective bargaining in pro sports between the players' union and the entire league, the regional director held that it's okay for the union to represent a single team and negotiate with a single school. So it doesn't have to be, at least in the private schools, in the Ivy League. There can be a union for Dartmouth, a union for Harvard, a union for Brown, so forth and so on. Single unions, single separate negotiations. Hopefully they can combine all that to the Ivy League. Holy smokes, ladies and gentlemen. Holy smokes. Few additional notes. In the Northwestern case in 2015, the regional director held football players were employees, but the full board declined to take the case because NLRA only applies to private employers, and most FBS schools are public. That's not an issue here because all the schools in the Ivy League are private. So thus far, it's about private universities. That's why we got to look closely at the USC case, which we're going to do in a second. Dartmouth basketball does not generate a lot of revenue, but the profitability of any given business does not affect the employee status of the individuals who perform work for that business. We just went over that previously with the Matt Brown tweets. The key to employee status is that Dartmouth exercises significant control over the player's work, including travel, practice, play time, and special permission is required for a player to even get a haircut during a trip. Now, before we get to your comments, we do have to hit this. This is also from Amanda Kristovich today, February 5th. Optimism is growing for labor judge to rule college athletes are employees. This is the USC case. This is the USC Trojans case. The second session in the labor trial concerning USC football and basketball players concluded last Friday. Today is Monday. Ramaji Huma, who filed the case on behalf of the athletes, tell Front Office Sports he believes his side will prevail. On Friday, the second session in a month-long labor trial over college athletic employment status concluded at a National Labor Relations Board regional office in Los Angeles. I feel that we're in an extremely strong position. The executive director of the organization, arguing on the behalf of the athletes, tell Front Office Sports, I think we're going to win. The case was filed in 2022. Labor complaint. Huma's National College Players Association argued that USC football, basketball players should be considered employees of USC, the Pac-12, and the NCAA. This is different than what just happened at Dartmouth. And the NLRB ruled that the Dartmouth basketball players, Dartmouth athletes, are employees of Dartmouth, not of the Ivy League Conference. During the 2-week session, the NLRB rested its case on athlete employment, and USC began its pro-amateurism arguments. I'm not going to go through the whole article. I just want to, at the very end, it talks about, there's a link in the description, you can read the whole article, but it talks about how poorly the USC lawyers did in their defense on this case. They were not on the same page. They got their messaging mixed up. What's next? The trial will break for most of the month and reconvene February 26th, 29th in Los Angeles. USC will conclude its case, and then the Pac-12 and the NCAA will present their defenses. The trial may even continue into a 5th month, with days scheduled in mid-April after March Madness if needed. Many thoughts that I have. One is, you're sitting there in Dallas, Texas. Now, again, this is about a private institution in a conference full of private institutions. None of them give out athletic scholarship. But you're sitting there in the Dallas meetings, the 10 FBS commissioners. There's private universities scattered throughout these FBS conferences. And you know the train is on the track and it's a-moving. We have talked about this since episode number 1 of our college football YouTube channel. It was our manifesto. We said the only way out is to get collective bargaining agreement, have the student athletes be represented, and negotiate. I am nervous. I'm apprehensive. I'm scared about some of these sports that I love in college football. You got, nothing is like football, right? And then nothing else is like basketball. And then there are some sports out there that are revenue makers for these university athletic departments. But most of them do not. And you know what? These sports provided scholarships, opportunities, growth. It provided so many things for so many athletes. It gave them a training ground for the Olympics. And if all of them have to be deemed employees, the cost of sponsoring these sports are going to go up, and some of these opportunities are going to be stripped away. that is what I believe is the reality of this. Hopefully there can be some congressional, if they can get their acts together, once this all happens, once these football players and basketball players and some other student athletes become professional employees, collective bargaining agreement, then maybe at some point there can be some carve-outs, special carve-outs to the student athletes in some of these sponsored sports where it's just can't be supported by the athletic department. But that is my hope. That is my dream. Now, let me go through the chat room. Let me thank everybody who's come in at the start of the show. Then I want to get into Dallas, Texas. Again, we haven't had any reporting yet of what transpired today in Dallas, Texas. We did get some reporting on what Oregon State and Washington State are trying to do. Wow. So we're going to hit that right now. But before we do that, I want to thank everybody who has come in to the chat. I appreciate it. John Bennett, PATC is live. Is there any cloak and dagger coming? There's not a whole lot of cloak in Dallas, Texas, but there's going to be some daggers. No question about it. Hagen, holy smokes. Mr. Buckeye, Gerald Jones is in the house. Jimmy is in the house. Michael Batts is in the house. The Buffalo Richard L. So much action. Expedition Greg is in the house. Charlie Atwood, Penn State is in the house. Excellent. I like it. Don in Kansas is in the house. Randy Taylor, the architect. The architect is in the house. John Dowie is in the house. Ryan Thomas is in the house. Ted Evans, Grateful Trojan. The Trojan is in the house as USC, at least the basketball players and the football players by the end of April are probably most likely going to be deemed employees of the university. And then what does the Big Ten do? What does everybody else do? Holy smokes. AMAC is in the house. Stephen Vitt is in the house. CFB Playoff Edits has come on in. Derek Marie has come on in. Holy smokes. FSU JL11 is here. Hummus Hero has come on in. Joe Z is making turkey. No, his wife is making turkey meatball spaghetti right now. Cheese-free. Excellent choice. Excellent choice. Don in Kansas. Kurt P is in the house. John Teal, thank you for your super chat once again. Why does the packet called Frankenstein when the Big 12 only has 2 original members? Big 12 better just add them before Big 10, the SEC walks away. I don't call the Pac-2 Frankenstein. They might be able to create a Frankenstein conference, which means they poach for more than one conference. In other words, Mountain West, ACC. That's not necessarily a negative, shouldn't be considered a negative connotation, the Frankenstein conference. I think that might create better value for Oregon State and Washington State. I do not think the Big 12 has any interest in the Cougars and the Beavers. I don't think they ever had any interest in either of those 2 schools. Randy Taylor, what about Title IX? Absolutely. Absolutely. I ended my first part of my monologue with my thoughts on that. Ryan Thomas, Emaki Damas predicted this. Holy smokes. Mr. Hawkeye, I believe he is in the chat. Sergeant Pickles is in the house. Sergeant Pickles is in the house. Mooncat is in the house. Tough Tony is in the house. Ryan Thomas, Amy S. Title IX of labor laws requires equal pay for equal work, man or woman. I don't know how this is all going to end, Amy. I have no idea. You know what? We're all just riding a wild tiger. Not a wild horse, a wild tiger. We're just barely hanging on, trying to keep up with all these breaking stories, trying to make sense of it. Great question, Amy. Unfortunately, once again, I do not have the answer. Mr. Hawkeye is in the house. It's an exciting afternoon, and we haven't even heard anything about the playoff meeting yet. So keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a swivel during this live show, because we could be getting some breaking news. Ted Evans is in the house. Some kind of rules need to be set at ASAP. College football is in the wild west right now. You are absolutely correct, Mr. Huskies. Jonathan Price is in the house. D5 Terps is in the house. Mike Pasterik is in the house. Does Title IX become in jeopardy if all these D1 student athletes become employees? I don't know how it would work. I don't know. Don't know how it would work. Do not know how it will work. John Lucas, no, not any Clemson update. I took the L last night. I'm going to take the L before the end of the show today. I'm going to take the L on Tuesday. And then officially on Wednesday is the true day. I'm going to take the L because Clemson, not a word. They won't even produce any time for their local beat writers. And we reported that a couple weeks ago. And have you noticed there's been no local reporting, no interviews, nothing done? We were told that a couple weeks ago. It's all shut down at Clemson. Very interesting. Very interesting situation at Clemson. I don't know if this got into an internal civil war situation. I do not know. Canes All Day is in the house. Gator Hater is in the house. Rock and Rant is in the house. Jamie Thornton, any word on the meetings from today? Not yet, but keep your head on a swivel. Opie is absolutely in the house. Don Scruggs, Georgia, he's in the house. Jim Troy is in the house. Dartmouth don't even make money in sports. Sports is just another way for students to get into the Ivy League sports. They probably would be happy just to cancel football. Or they go the other direction and they go all in. Remember, the Ivy Leagues do not give out athletic scholarships. Replica. Now, this is an interesting comment, and we're going to get into this right now. Replica, I think the Dellinger article from yesterday was a warning to Schultz, Pac-2, more so the other conferences. If other conferences were holding up the process, we would have heard more leaks by now. Possibly. Maybe. I think it's more than just Schultz. But I get your point. I like how you think. Laura Weiss, Texas Tech, Red Raider is in the house. Dave Bauer is in the house. And Coy, Early Peak member, is in the house. Let's get to. First of all, did I go through all the super chats? I apologize. Yeah, it looks like I did. Okay. let's get to this article. Wade Peary on 3. Report: Washington State Pac-2 proposal leads to delay on college football playoff format change. One of the biggest changes that college football fans have been clamoring for decades is to expanding the college football playoff format from 4 teams to 12 teams. The good news is fans will finally get to see the CFP with 12 teams in 2024, 2025, but beyond 2025. The great gold rush of 2026, at least we're all hoping for that. Its future could potentially be up in the air. The latest thing. Now, it doesn't say the only thing. If you read it carefully, this report from Ross Dellinger is not indicating that this is the only thing remaining that's holding up on getting a bunch of decisions finalized. Get it done, right? The model, 5+7, get that done. Distribution percentages, model, get that done. Future access, automatic bursts, get a clause in there that could potentially expand to 16 teams in the playoffs 4 or 5 years from down the road. Get that done. Get the media deal all wrapped up with ESPN. Get that done. SMU, the issue of if they're going to get P5 payment. Get that done. I do not think that Kirk Schultz is the only one holding this up, but he's one of the big players that is holding this up. Let's get back to the article. The latest thing that's holding up the format change, which needs a unanimous vote, is a proposal from Washington State President Kirk Schultz asking for guarantees of voting rights, revenue distribution for the Pac-12/Pac-2, Washington State and Oregon State beyond 2025. Okay, so this is about Washington State and Oregon State. They want certain guarantees on their voting rights and revenue distribution beyond 2025. So this is not about 2024, 2025, and we didn't think it would be. We think their playoff distribution money is going to be guaranteed to them. It's going to be autonomy for level payoff to both those schools for both those years. This is about 2026 and beyond. There is not going to be a Pac-12. I mean, there might be, but it isn't with everybody's going to be gone. They're going to be gone this year. So this is about Washington State and Oregon State wanting guarantees on voting rights, revenue distribution in 2026, when they could be the two schools that create a Frankenstein conference where they add some Mountain West schools or some AAC schools, or it's just a full merger with the Mountain West schools and they become the Pac-14. Washington State and Oregon State, they want voting rights and revenue distribution rights for a conference that doesn't even exist now, because it can't be just about those two schools, right? It says right here, revenue distribution for the Pac-12, Pac-2. In other words, whatever is created beyond 2025, with Washington State and Oregon State being the creators, they want guarantees, and they're not saying we want to guarantee G5. Of course they're going to get G5 voting rights and revenue distribution, but they want more. This is why on my screen title, I say Washington State and Oregon State are going for the moonshot. They are going... Now, they're going for something they're just not going to get. We talked about it yesterday on the live show. Everybody is looking out for themselves. And everybody is going to start high with their negotiations. This is starting high with Washington State and Oregon State. Now, again, the only discussion I've had outside of me calling the people that I talk to, there is some confusion on how much power Kirk Schultz does have in stopping everything here. Because remember, we need a unanimous vote. We need all 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame to get something passed. Kirk Schultz, Washington State, and Oregon State are the only ones who can vote for a conference that doesn't really exist, but it does. I mean, it does until at least July, according to NCAA bylaws, or whatever you want to call it. It does exist midway through the summer, July 1st, and then the Pac-12 officially breaks up. Because the Pac-12 still is the Pac-12. Obviously, you got baseball going on, you got softball going on. But the only voting rights is Washington State and Oregon State. So what a couple of people I've talked to said, if everybody else can get in line, with all the other issues, they can just say to themselves, we're all going to agree on it. We're all going to vote yes on it. Sometime in late July, early August in Dallas, Texas, after Kirk Schultz doesn't not have the power to gum up the works. So what I'm trying to say is, at least a couple people believe Kirk Schultz, while he has the power to gum up the works now, he does not have the same type of power, long-term power, that the Sun Belt Commissioner has, that the MAC Commissioner has, that the Big 12 Commissioner has, to give an example. So anyways, Washington State and Oregon State going for the moonshot, going for it all. And I don't think they're going to the Pac-2 technically exists via grace period, but not within the College Football Playoff Committee. So I don't know. It's all mixed up. You might be correct. Now, Ryan, there's really smart people that have taken completely different sides to this question. So I don't want to say it's definitely one way or the other. But anyways, there's a lot of frustration. That is why you saw the Ross Dellinger SEC and the Big Ten leak stuff to Ross Dellinger. The article from yesterday, that was a shot across the bow to everybody else. Everybody, we got to get things done. We got to get consensus. But at the same time, the Big Ten and the SEC are going for their own moonshots, right? And the one person who's been quiet through all of this is Brett Yormark. Jim Phillips has complained to the to the press about the SMU situation, and I don't blame him. But Brett Yormark has remained quiet. Are we going to hear about Brett Yormark tonight or tomorrow? Is he going to say anything out in public? Immaculate says the playoff policy seems to be automatically default to the NCAA rules. That is how they sidestep the board on the 8-team requirement. That is an NCAA policy, so no vote necessary. It's a mess out there. It's a mess out there. I'm going to open up the phone lines here. We've got more stuff to go through, but I want people to be able to get their voices out there. 763-260-1333. Thank you for joining us this Monday early evening, late afternoon, early evening. Again, if you want to be an early peak member, Cloak and Dagger, college football's early peak member, we'll drop in episodes a couple times a week. Just hit the join button. Just gotta hit the join button. We've had a whole lot of new members lately. Holy smokes. Thanks, everybody.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas is on the line. What do you think? What's going on, sir?
Well, first of all, regarding Dartmouth, let's give Immaculate Thomas credit where credit's due. He is a prophet, man. He's a prophet. Going on with, it seems to me like this whole these CFP meetings, I mean, this is more complicated than NATO membership. I mean, it's like, you got to make, Orban and Erdogan happy, and, that's sort of how it is with, Kirk Schultz, who, by the way, Kirk needs to realize that negotiating is not exactly his strong suit. But I think the message is pretty clear. Kirk Schultz wants the Pac-12. He wants it to have the same treatment for the future as it's getting now, and he's not going to get that. He's not going to get that. And he should have realized that very clearly when they said that we're not paying for SMU for playoff money. Like I said on my call last night, the message very clearly to the ACC and Big 12 and Pat to figure it out and consolidate yourself down, because consolidate yourselves in whatever manner is necessary. But I think that is sort of the message, and I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen, Greg. Instead of having more money go to the P2 than everybody else, I actually think it's going to be more money to the P3 and then more money to the rest. And with the P3, meaning the Big 12, SEC, and Big 10, what I mean by that is they're going to basically, I've just lost my train of thought here.
That's okay.
Basically, they're going to go to a 4+8 model if it's a 12-team playoff. And with a 4+8 model, you're creating more at-large bids, so the SEC and Big 10 can make up that revenue gap with those games, and they probably will. So I think that's probably what's going to happen. It's give me a 4+8 or 4+12, because I don't think the ACC is going to exist, because they're not going to be able to replace anything. If the Big 10 picks up 2 schools from there, and that thing gets loosened, ESPN's not going to renew the option, which means that after 2026, the people need to remember, Oklahoma and Texas announced their departure 3 years before their term was going to end. 3 seasons before the Big 12 current contract was going to end. They got out a year early. They negotiated out a year early, but they were supposed to play 21, 22, and 23. So they played 3, and 24, but they got out early. Now, look at this. The ACC has 24, 25, and 26. 3 seasons, Greg. So if ESPN doesn't pick up the option, it's over. It's over because people are going to start moving their way out, and then they'll negotiate a quicker rent to coincide with the CFP contract.
Let me ask you. Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, what are the odds that? How do I say this? What do we got here? We got February 5th. We are 300 and... I'm going to get this wrong. We are 388 days away from ESPN's deadline of February 28th, 2025, to declare if they are going to keep distributing ACC's live content under the contract going from 2027 and beyond. We have 388 days left to the deadline. If you believe that ESPN is going to decline, which I believe you do, what are the chances that ESPN decides in the next 120 days, the next 3 months? Because, or are they going to wait all the way to the end of the deadline?
They're going to wait to see where this ACC FSU case is heard. They're going to wait and see where it's heard, and they're also going to wait and see how bad this looks. So, I mean, there may be some things they don't want to have come out in Discovery. Maybe ESPN doesn't want their business practices necessarily known fully. So they might, if they nix the deal, that sort of solves a big chunk of that lawsuit. Because part of that lawsuit is what is the value after 2026 or from 2027 to 2036. Yeah. So, I mean, ESPN, I mean, I don't think they want some of their business practices out there because, that will make the SEC wise for the next round of negotiations because, the SEC is probably thinking we could have got paid more than what the Big Ten ended up with. But they didn't because, ESPN kind of smartly handled that situation. But I think that ESPN is going to likely say no because if it really looks that bad, like I said, Miami has the luxury. If there was more than just, sunshine law provisions that are at stake, if there were actual fiduciary responsibilities that failed and basically, the ACC was the one that breached contract, then, that equally applies to Miami. So Miami would tag along with that precedent. So essentially you would have Miami and FSU ready for the pickings by the Big Ten. And, I mean, I just, and UNC wants out. So UNC, Clemson, and FSU probably represent 50% of the value of the ACC. I just, if those, if UNC and FSU get plucked from the tree, that's as devastating of a blow as losing. That's as devastating as a blow as losing Oklahoma and Texas or USC and UCLA to the Pac-12 and Big 12. The only difference is the Big 12 was able to replace its teams and survive, but based on how this playoff money's been divvied out, it doesn't sound like the conferences will get that same luxury. So, I mean, I think that's sort of the consideration. So I think ESPN is not going to renew this because Bob Thompson pointed out, Greg, if you remember when this first came out at the end of December, Bob Thompson said, if I were ESPN, I would exercise that option tomorrow. Well, they haven't.
Yeah.
They haven't.
No.
I mean, that speaks loudly. If ESPN was truly happy about getting a sweetheart deal on this on the ACC, they would have locked that baby in the second after FSU filed that lawsuit. If it truly was that important to ESPN, they would have exercised that option and got that cheap content and made it very cost prohibitive for Florida State, or made the battle a little harder for them to get out. But they didn't, and that tells you something. So I think ESPN is really to probably, they're going to see what comes. They're going to see where this gets heard, and maybe even before it gets to discovery, they're going to see the filing, so to say, and they're going to kind of make a legal determination, a risk determination, whether or not to pull the plug and make the decision really easy for the death of the ACC. Jim Phillips is kind of he's trying to paddle water in a canoe with a hole, and it's sort of it's difficult, but I just don't think it's going to last around. And as far as Notre Dame, I think like I said last night, the Big Ten still told Notre Dame, if you want to be 21, you can tag along, but we're not gonna. But Notre Dame has to decide how stubborn it wants to be. So, but those are my thoughts, Greg. I would just caution people like Notre Dame and Kirk Schultz who are trying to drag this to the mat and try to be Mr. Smith goes to Washington. I would just caution them that, it sounds noble and heroic, but at the end of the day, come 2026 or, from after 2025, no unanimity is needed. And trust me, these conferences, Greg Sankey is petty and vindictive. And I would not count on any kindness if this process gets screwed up right now. But anyway, thanks, Greg. Take care.
You got it. Thank you, sir. Great call. Mooncat, West Virginia, thank you for your super chat. Thank you for your generosity to the show. Can't keep a head on swivel with everything going on. Help. I agree with you, Mooncat. Do the best you can. I just saw again, this is not going to mean much to most people here, but I just saw a highlight.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, can you just hold 1 second?
Sure.
I just want to finish my thought. The Mooncat here, generous super chat. I can't keep my head on a swivel either. I just saw a highlight of Harvard hockey. And I follow college hockey, so and now my brain just went to, now Harvard's going to have their hockey players most likely as employees. And I don't know what happens now with Harvard hockey. Do they go all in? I don't know. It creates just another level of uncertainty. Immaculate, the hot guy, the floor is yours. Help me through this. Before you say anything, Immaculate, I do have this update in regards to
Breaking news.
Monday's update in ACC versus FSU in Mecklenburg County. The ACC served ESPN with a motion to seal plus related documents on Friday. ESPN has 20 days to file a brief. And then there was more information. I cannot. Judge Bledsoe ordered that the ACC be given the opportunity to file a reply brief in response to FSU's brief opposing the motion to seal, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. I can't keep it straight. Everyone's filing a brief. But ESPN has 20 days to file a brief. Anyways, go ahead. You've got the floor, Immaculate.
Well, we'll talk about that there real quick. 'Cause I was kind of chatting with that guy as well. There's also the ACC has a chance also now for like 10 days to file after FSU's filing on their filing to seal. Like it's getting real messy right now.
Yeah.
So what if this window right here? This is ESPN time. Are they going to come out and support the ACC in this?
Yes. Good. Great point.
Are they going to come out and be like, are they not going to file a brief in support?
Yes.
Like, I'm leaning that I don't think it's time yet. Like, they're not ready to really, show their hand yet. And so they'll file a brief in support of ACC, but they might not.
Yeah.
They
you're
might
right.
Like, no, we don't support you in sealing this. How bad does the ACC look? If ESPN comes back and says, no, we don't think this should be sealed. I mean,
Yeah.
How bad is that? I mean, they're the private company that should want this thing sealed.
Wow.
If they don't, and that's 20 days, man. This isn't a long period of time.
No. And I'm glad you simplified it for me, at least for me, maybe some people in the chat. You crystallized it, right? 20 days. And what if ESPN doesn't file a brief? What if they don't show any support to the ACC and ACC trying to seal these documents? And holy smokes. That's just one story of about 50, and I'm not even going to hit I'm not even going to hit other stuff in this monologue or in this show. It's just an amazing time. It's crazy.
Every day, it's a new big story. I've been following realignment for so many years, and it boggles me all the time. Like, why? Like, so this is happening in such, like, just the number of this, like the rapidity of it. It's every day. It's a new thing. You're trying to keep track of it all. Like this Dartmouth situation. I mean, this is serious, but it's not even the most serious case that an Ivy school or all of them are involved in.
Yeah.
There's a class action against them for price fixing on tuition. There's the case against Brown for discrimination on student aid to student athletes because they don't hand it out equally. They hand it out at need as they see fit. So there's, they're being sued by some student athletes that say that they're not handing it out properly. I've been saying for a while, and it's kind of crazy talk, so I don't like to go in too far into it. Like, you're going to have to watch some of this. And Matt Brown, he put out one little piece, and I quoted it because I thought it was so important.
I'll put it up again here. I talked about it. Go ahead.
You saw it? Yeah, the reason why this matters so much is because they don't have any state schools in the Ivy.
Yeah.
And so they don't get any cover. We always used to joke about Northwestern being our cover in the Big Ten because you could have meetings there and you couldn't FOIA the minute.
Yeah. This is the reverse.
The opposite is proven true now. Like the flip of the coin, where now the Ivy might be looking at this saying, we need to have a state school in the same conference.
What? Yeah, but the thing is that these state schools are going to, the NLRB is going to rule against these state schools at some point, right?
Oh, the NLRB doesn't have jurisdiction.
No, that's right. Just private. That's right.
Just private. That's why they couldn't rule against Northwestern because Northwestern is in a conference with the state schools. That's right. So if the Ivy was to say move into a conference that has at least one state school in it, and back to you.
Yeah, but once this gets ruled on USC,
mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't have one university having the student athletes being deemed employees.
What if that one doesn't go through fully because they're in a conference with a bunch of state schools?
Oh, that is Matt Brown's argument. Yeah.
So because that could happen on appeal. That could happen, by the judgment at the end of it. Everyone's saying, oh, they're going to win. But now we're looking at this and we're seeing the argument made on it. I'm looking at the USC case saying that may not come back as they think for that same Northwestern rule.
Okay. All right. So let's say the whole Ivy League has their student athletes turn into employees. What does the Ivy League, what do these institutions do? What does the Ivy League become? What do they become? Where is this all heading with the Ivy League?
I personally think the end result, how we get there, I don't know, but the strategy is they're going to have to look to some sports to actually make money. We're talking about schools that don't have large enrollment. They have large tuition per enrollee. So the cost per student is more. Now, if all of a sudden they have to turn some of those from paying students into scholarship students, for athletes, that's all money out of their pocket that they're not used to taking out. Now, maybe, they're pretty well off. Maybe they could just afford it. Maybe they cut sports. Or maybe they decide to go in the opposite direction and say, we need to actually turn our sports into a moneymaker, which means we're not really doing it here. We're not doing it in the Ivy League. So, there's some people like Jim Troy in chat that think that they will just go backwards, that they will downgrade on sports. And that's a reasonable argument.
Yeah.
I can't fault that. But I just get the feeling from them is the type of people that they do not like to give in or retreat or surrender or just lose in general.
The thing about club sports is, like a club sport, like these club sports at these universities, don't some of their stuff get afforded by the university? Right? Doesn't some club sports at these universities have get some sort of course they're not getting scholarships. What?
But a lot got to do fundraising and things for themselves.
Yeah, I know, but don't think I thought like for example, these ACHA, the club, the club, I would call it club, the club level of hockey. It's not Division One. They're not scholarship players. But they're getting a Georgia Tech hockey uniform. They're getting a Georgia Tech helmet. They're getting Georgia Tech. I mean, they're getting some from the university. I don't think it's all fundraising, is it?
Yeah, the school gives them the right to have all of the trademarks and whatever of the school on there and to have school colors. But I still think they have to raise the funds to cover it all.
And time on the ice. Time on the ice.
I don't know.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Okay.
I'm wrong too. I honestly, I don't know for sure, but that was my interpretation of the differences. Club sports are not actually like funded; they're just supported. That makes sense. Like you can use their facilities, you can have the school's trademarks and everything on you, uniforms and everything, but they got to raise their own funding for it. And you'll see that a lot in those college towns and whatnot. Those teams are out raising funds. They'll have fundraisers. They'll have drives and whatnot. So they could go that way.
Yeah.
They drop down divisions. They might do that and just say screw it. Or Dallas, they might decide to go big with it. It could go either way. Yeah. But if they go big with it, they're gonna have to move up.
Yeah. Dallas, Texas.
Oh, man. We haven't heard anything.
No, we haven't. What does that mean?
That generally means that they're like, get the media out of the room and they're in serious discussions.
Yeah.
Like, go away. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah. No leaks
it's over.
yet.
Nothing came. So, I mean, that was very, very quiet, which tells me, like, discussions, but good discussion because no one's coming out of there trying to tell media something, so they'll go out and say something to cause a little pressure from the outside. They are very internalized right now, which is, I think, a good sign. It's like we're all waiting outside the Vatican for the white smoke to come out, right?
I would agree. I'm agreeing with you on this.
As a comparison,
I think no news is probably good news for right now.
Yeah, they're in heavy deliberation.
Yeah.
If it was going bad in there, if there was, big disagreements or whatever going on, you might have some guys coming out and letting off a little steam and telling media something and saying, "Hey, go out and do this. We want to try and get a little pressure on them for tomorrow." Doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. The Dartmouth thing to me, honestly, this was the return that I thought was going to happen. I didn't think there was any chance that they weren't getting that when you had guys on the team that were on the cafeteria workers and they got to unionize, and because they're not getting scholarships, they're not getting anything. They are providing a service, and Dartmouth does charge people to come in and watch their games. So I thought it was like there was zero chance that Dartmouth was winning that one. So it's big news. It's just not a surprise.
Yeah.
But anyways, about to head out here. I got to go move night
it.
with the. But I wanted to call in, say hello, and here we go.
Yeah.
It could be
keep
a big
your head on
moment
the
going
swivel.
forward. You guys have a good night, though.
Thank you, sir. Great call. Great call. Again, if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure your notifications are on. We could go live at any time. Tomorrow we could be going live in the morning, in the noon time, in the early afternoon time, late at night, because hopefully we'll be getting some big time news out of Dallas, Texas. So you don't know what's going to happen from day to day. So subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're having your notifications on. Smash the like button if you like our content. Let's go back to the comments. The phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Again, I'm going to make it perfectly clear what I believe is going to happen. We've been talking in Dallas, Texas. We've been talking about this for 17 months. There is a power two. There has been a power two for years. They've grown stronger, the SEC and the Big Ten, because of their expansion. It's one of the reasons why, it's the big reason why they did expand. To gain more value, more power. We talked about chips being placed at the middle of the table when it came to the great gold rush of 2026. It's exactly what is happening right now. I believe there is a power two, but what I don't believe in, and I'm going to have to see it to believe it. I don't think there's going to be a breakaway. If there is going to be a breakaway, I think it's going to be years from now, at least past this current 8-year college football playoff contract. Now, my prediction could go pear-shaped. I don't think it will. I think there's, for a lot of reasons. Power two, yes. When it comes to power, influence, exposure, power two, SEC and the Big Ten. But power two, a P2 breakaway, a complete breakaway from everybody else in the FBS, I think it's too complicated, too difficult, too many things that are going on, and I believe they'll lose value. I can understand it. Look, we don't know what 8 years from now is going to look like. I can understand it happening past 8 years. I still think it would be the underdog. It would not be the chalk on the PATC Sportsbook. But it's definitely not the chalk now. That's for sure. Now, if today in Dallas, Texas, Brett Yormark said this doesn't work for me, brother, when it comes to Big Ten and the SEC trying to get a little bit more money here, a little bit more votes there, trying to push their way. If Brett Yormark says this doesn't work for me, the ACC, Jim Phillips basically has nothing to lose at this point. Throws his hands up and says, we're not supporting you guys for getting a little bit, for having a higher percentage. If there is this great pushback, if they do not get these things done, if they call the SEC's Big Ten bluff, then we might have the nuclear option. The nuclear option, they might press the button, the Big Ten and the SEC. I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to need to. They're definitely using the leverage to do so. And if they hit that nuclear option, there is going to be a trail of tears, not just outside the P2, but inside the P2. There's going to be a lot of mountains that they're not going to want to climb. But we'll see what happens. I think, tell me if I'm being naive, I think we're going to get some resolutions here. Yeah, Big Ten and the SEC using their leverage, creating an advisory board. They want more ownership. They want to get this thing going. They want to make sure they can set their own compensation model for their student athletes. Because who knows, they might become professional pretty soon. Whatever it is. And I think everyone else is going to want to maintain playoff access. They want to maintain a relationship with the SEC and the Big Ten. And I think everybody is going to fall in line. Tell me I'm wrong with the chats or with your phone calls. Let's see what you got to say. If the Big Ten and the SEC can't make it with all their money they make, then no other conferences will be able to succeed either. Nathan says the Big Ten grabs FSU, Miami. SEC grabs UNC, Virginia. Big 12 grabs the rest. I don't think the Big 12 is interested in the rest. I think the Big 12 would only be interested up to 4 ACC schools. No more than 4. Replica, there will be a market correction for the Big Ten SEC's media rights value. We've seen similar revenue declines in other entertainment industries, including TV, movie, and music. Interesting. Very interesting. Jamie Thornton, Mrs. Arkansas Razorback. It's a no-hold bar. No holds bar, no time limit cage match going on in Dallas right now. The SEC and the Big Ten versus the ACC Big 12 G5 handicap match. Patrick, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, Clemson would all add value to the Big Ten. So I'm going to hop on here. I'm going to take the phone lines off. Since there's no calls, I'm going to go to my other story that we were going to talk about. We might as well hit it here. College football. We cover, peek around the corner, we cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. This was from The Athletic. Ari Wasserman. What recruiting rules would college football staffers change? Blow the entire system up. We're not going to go through the whole article. There is some... Whoops. That's not what I wanted. There is some options in regards to reforming recruiting in college football. Option A, let the prospects sign whenever they want. No signing period. No signing day. I still think that's better than having everyone wait for one centralized day, as staffers said. In the world of decommitments, roster spots, filling up the portal, why are we asking all these kids to hold up while our rosters are constantly changing? Some teams push high school kids out who have been waiting 7 or 8 months to sign with the school when the unforeseen roster situation happens. Now, people are looking for alternatives. They want reform in recruiting. It is the early signing day on December 20th. That can't be on the calendar anymore because you got the playoffs are going to be happening in December. You got all this stuff going on. Move it out of there. So what are the options? Option A, any day is signing day. We're going to skip the rest of that. Option B, make the early signing period early. Why is the early signing period only 6 or 7 weeks before the February? The old traditional signing day in February. If you're going to do it. Move it way up. Move the early signing window to late July, according to this article, according to people who've talked to The Athletic. After the spring official visit season, allow the players who have made up their minds to sign. If they aren't ready, they can wait until first Wednesday in February. Option C, go back to the old way. Changes don't always mean improvement. So maybe we should just go back to the old way where prospects can only sign in February. So there it is. You've got option A. Every day is signing day. A high school player can sign a letter of intent the day he commits. The school says, let's do it. He signs it any day of the year. Option A. Option B, move that early signing period in December around the 20th, December 20th. Move it into the summer. Move it into the summer. And then option C, forget about the early signing period. Forget about any day potentially being signing day. Let's just go back to the way it was. February, one signing period. What do you guys think? Option A, option B, option C. Joe Z says option A. It's interesting. I kind of like option A, to be honest with you. These kids make a commitment, sign the letter of intent, and in the future, probably going to be signing a contract, right? Go for it. Sign it. Sign it. I kind of agree with you, Joe. Rod Nix's option C. Go back to the way it was. February. No early signing period. Steven says A. Same thing with Joe Z and myself. Any day is the signing period. Interesting. Recruiting, there has to be some reform. It cannot go like it has been. You cannot have that December 21st signing day. You can't do it. December is ugly. It's already ugly, and now you're going to have playoffs in December. You've got to move it out of there. There's some decision that has to be made. I don't think that's one of the... praise the Lord, Cornelius Green. Thanks for coming on in. I don't even think that's one of the subjects that they're talking about. What they're definitely not talking about in Dallas. That's not what this is about. But I don't know. I'm not even sure if that's an option. Daniel Dill says option C. Option C. Go back to the way it used to be. Have it in February. Great for Trojan. More concerned about the portal issues than the recruiting issues. Well, the portal issues are not going to be solved until until the student athletes become employees, until there's a collective bargain agreement, until both sides can say, this is when you can transfer. When your contract says your time's up here, if you got a 2-year whatever they negotiate on, then you can go and transfer. Because right now you can transfer as many times as you want, back and forth. There's not going to be any limits on transferring. There's just not. Just not. The courts have basically dictated that. So unless you've bargained some of your rights back and forth with the conference or some governing body, whatever, don't think they can fix the signing period until they do something with the transfer portal. Illini Ted. Yeah, there's so many issues. I don't know. If you go read that Ari Wasserman article from The Athletic, there's a part in there where one of the staffers, a Power 5 conference team, one of the staffers says something like, I've had 5 days off in the last, since August, and then he says, no, 4 days off, something like that. Because they basically, when they take their wives out to dinner, they have to have the phone on while they're eating at the restaurant, and that phone's going to go off. It's going to be something about recruiting. Transfer portal, it's just not easy. Not easy. Phone lines are open. Or no, are they? No, they're not. Let me open them up again. Phone lines is now open, 763-260-1333. We're keeping our head on a swivel. We are trying to see if there's going to be any reporting tonight on the Dallas meeting, Dallas, Texas, the 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame trying to iron out a lot of issues within the college football playoffs, the expanded college football playoffs, when it comes to access, when it comes to 5+7, 6+6 model, when it comes to distribution, a whole lot of big issues that they haven't ironed out yet. I'm not seeing anything. Not seeing any information yet on what has happened Monday in Dallas, Texas. Again, they're meeting tomorrow, Tuesday. It's a 2-day meeting. Yeah, not seeing anything. Bob's reality. As a Buckeye fan, I love the transfer portal this year. Yeah, the Buckeyes are absolutely stacked. Quinshon Judkins, holy smokes. He's going to have a big year with the Buckeyes. Big year for the Buckeyes. I know he's going to have to share the ball, the rock, with Travion Henderson, but oh, and then I just wanted to show, let's see if I can find it. I think I will. Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. And of course, I cannot find it. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. This was this comment earlier about noon today. Dennis Dodd, been hearing a lot about regionalization of Olympic sports to address travel concerns in the ACC and the Big Ten. Those leagues and media partners wanted all sports because of inventory for their networks. It's not easy or possible, frankly, to unwind, get used to the frequent flyer points. Couple points here. Having the Olympic sports play more regional, having teams play more of your non-revenue sports contests with schools that are closer to you. Yes, that's been obvious. That's obvious. I mean, we talked about that at Peek Around the Corner basically daily, talking about how the Big Ten was going to go west again before they settled and went east after the additions of UCLA, USC. That's part of the reasons why Oregon and Washington were at it, to help at least regionalize some of those Olympic sports on the Pacific Coast. But it's even beyond that. This is obvious, right? But you notice Dennis Dodd said those leagues and media partners wanted ALL. He capitalized all three letters. All the sports because of the inventory of their networks. So when people say that maybe in the future here, near future, we're going to set up this football league separate from all the other sports and all this, I tell you, I can tell you the Big Ten is not interested in that. The SEC is not interested in that. They want all of it, because on their conference networks, live sports is what sell the ad rates. It's what sell it brings in the money. These talking shows where you have panels and everything, where they fill in time, can't have too much of that. Live sports brings the advertisers, the ad rates up. You need to fill those time slots. Live sports year round. Of course you make more of your money. You get more of your subscriptions during the football season and then into the basketball season. But you need it year round. You want live sports year round. The Big Ten wanted all of what Oregon has. All of what Oregon has. All of what Washington has. All of what USC has. All of what UCLA has. The SEC wanted everything that Texas and Oklahoma provided, not just the football. Inventory for their conference networks. It's why LHN did not survive. The University of Texas, the Longhorn Network did not have enough live content. It wasn't bundled with anybody else's school. There wasn't enough there. They couldn't sell ad rates. The network was full of taped sporting contests and all these talking panel shows, and it did not. So it was horrible. It did not work. You get more juice if you bundle the content together, and with conference networks, a lot of it is the third tier content. You bundle it together, create your network, if you can do it, and you're going to get more money out of it instead of the standalone stuff. So the idea that, I know Chip Kelly meant well. Chip Kelly meant well when he said, it would be better if football, we just had 64 or football. Chip Kelly, the head coach of UCLA, doesn't want his UCLA softball or UCLA baseball, to play all over the country. Wanted them to just play against Arizona, schools around in the UCLA area. But the Big Ten wants UCLA baseball. They want their baseball team. They definitely want their softball team to be on the Big Ten network playing Big Ten schools. So I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was very interesting. Not surprising. None of it is surprising. Down in Kansas, it's a long road that doesn't have a bend. The Big Ten and the SEC won't be dominant forever. Even college sports has its ebbs and flows. I saw a question here. Boy, I hope I can find it. I can't find it, but it was a question of something in the regards of, would Big Ten like to have a redo, something with realignment? I can't see it, but I will say this. I believe the two schools that want are the two schools that want a redo the most when it comes to realignment. Are not schools that have moved, schools that did not move, that had the opportunity to move. If they would have been active, they would have been given an invitation into the Power 2. The two schools that I think have the most regret in what they did not do is North Carolina and Virginia when it came to the expansion, Big Ten expansion of their 13th and 14th school.
Call from
JD.
JD is on the line. Holy smokes, Mr. Seminole. We have briefs here, briefs there, waiting on ESPN. They got 20 days. Will ESPN even support the ACC? Are they even going to take action? Do they even care? All this stuff going on. We got the ACC winter meetings beginning February 15th. Holy smokes. What do you got to say, sir?
I'm still lost on the whole Raycom thing. That is just... There are people that have done deep dives, and I just kind of glossed over it there.
Okay.
And something just doesn't sit right. And, you know, if you have, like, let me rephrase that. If you have any free time, and I say that tongue-in-cheek because I know you don't. I mean, you've got every day there's another rabbit hole you have to dive down because the news is changing by the hour.
Yes, sir.
Raycom pays $50 million a year to ESPN just for it's their annual rights payment, tier 3 rights payment, and then they pay, I think, in the neighborhood of $49 to $50 million a year out to the conference, which only works out to be what $4 to $5 million. Actually, not even that much per member. So it's just a few $1 million a year per member. Raycom claims that their annual revenue is $9.2 million as of this past year. Okay?
Yeah.
They make they have several revenue sources, selling the rights to the CW, selling the rights to other media companies and so on. And there's just a lot of money unaccounted for. Now I understand that $9.2 million revenue, that's revenue that you can expense everything. But understand, I think there's something there. They're a company that doesn't even broadcast any games. I don't know. I'm more or less not presenting a smoking gun. I'm more or less almost encouraging somebody that has access maybe to information that I don't have.
Yeah.
Go down that trail, because you start looking at the whole deal. Why was it so important for Raycom to be a part of the ACC deal originally? Was it just for Swofford's son, to make sure he was gainfully employed? And why was it so important for the ACC to extend that grant of rights to 2036? Why was it so important to keep Raycom a part of the deal until 2036? Because if there was any malfeasance going on, anything that was going on, was Raycom a part of it? There's just, I'm going down a rabbit hole, and it may end up being totally unfounded, but yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
I find it interesting. It probably doesn't mean anything. I just find it interesting that the Raycom, the Chad Swofford, John Swofford, but that whole complaint, that whole argument was part of the Florida State's extended complaint, but not a part of their original lawsuit. Now, I'm wondering, I gotta believe that was strategic, but I don't know what that, I'm just wondering why that wasn't part of their first go around. Was it strategic? I'm not a lawyer, but I haven't heard anybody talk about why they held back on this. Because this isn't something that they just, we should do that. This was always part of their argument. But have you heard anybody talk about why Florida State held this back until they did the extended complaint?
Nothing for certain. But you understand the first round was eye-opening for everyone. The second round was maybe not necessarily scorched earth, but bridges were burned, Then you hear that there's a third round and maybe even a fourth round. And I would imagine that in each version, it gets more salacious. The claims get even more damning. I don't know. I just, we've always heard about how bad the Raycom deal was, and basically, Swofford basically just gave away the Tier 3 rights, and everybody's like, it was to benefit his son. It was to benefit his son.
Yeah.
Was it just to benefit his son?
Or
was
benefit him?
Or him or others?
Yeah.
And I'm asking that question out loud because it does not make sense. It does not make sense. I think that's another reason why that whole thing that we talked about yesterday, deals made under the swaying pine trees. And first time I'd heard that was somebody hint around to that was Chris's Sporadics last week, and I'm glad you posted that article the other day, because believe it or not, I had not read that article. I had heard about it, but I had not read it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they if you got into Raycom's books, and I understand they're a private company and that's something that's really hard to do, you'd have to have some type of proof of criminality, but it just doesn't sit right with me. It just doesn't make sense. You will sacrifice. Well, I'm going to back up here, but we've seen obvious self-dealing by Swofford and his insistence his insistence on Raycom being a part of the deal. There were better deals available. This deal it had the worst payout of the three options. And the other deals could renegotiate on shorter terms. And he insisted on this deal. You don't do that just to secure employment for your son. And again, it just does not make sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's more. I'm just saying I think there's more. I think there's more. And,
logic would say there's more because
yeah.
if there isn't, it's not logical that it happened. I get it.
And I can't get past it, man.
Yeah.
I have a very analytical mind, and when I'm stuck on something, I'm stuck. You know?
Then you are on the correct show, my boy. This is the show to be on if you're analytical. You like doing deep dives. Yeah, it's and I think a lot of people share your take on it. You know, we don't have any evidence, but man, it sure seems like there was more to it on why somebody had a benefit. It would seem like somebody would have to benefit more than Chad Swarford's job status. Well,
just think of the length of term that they wanted it. I mean, again, and I'm being redundant here. I said this yesterday, and I've said it before. You know, people will say, well, FSU signed the grant of rights. Yes, they signed the grant of rights because they were giving the ACC the ability to negotiate the deal. The deal was not presented to them beforehand. The ACC they claimed they needed the grant of rights because ESPN required it to secure the deal. The deal wasn't even finalized. And that's not even that uncommon with a lot of contracts. But you look at the SEC contract, you look at the Big Ten contract, it was created with the intention to benefit its members. Nobody can look at the ACC contract and in good conscience say it was created to benefit the members. It was created more of a go-along contract, that's just an average contract that actually it's appearing it was benefiting the commissioner and others, and we're going to find out, and that's my opinion, that others benefited as well. Yeah. And I just, the ACC, they're in a conundrum because I contend they have to settle, and they have to settle soon, but they don't know how to. They don't know how to settle because how do you settle in Florida and keep it quiet? You can't.
Yeah.
How do you settle and not allow for a jailbreak? They can't. So this all they have is to stall, but the problem is for them that if FSU does have even more salacious allegations that they claim they can prove, or at least can cause enough, at least please the court enough to suggest that there's more there, and they get access to the rest of the information, my man, people might go to jail. If it's as bad as it could be, and we don't have proof of any of that yet. I'm just, there's things that you hear, you don't know for sure, but just doing the deep dive on the numbers, and there's just a lot of money. I mean, you look at Raycom was purchased, I think, by Gray Media, or they were a part of a media deal that was for like hundreds of billions of dollars. And you just look at all the money going back and forth for a company that doesn't even broadcast. Okay, and then don't get me wrong, they're still a company and they market and they have expenses and so on. But it's just how much money goes through them, and where is that money dispersed? And there's just a lot of questions. Just a lot of questions.
Yep.
So I may find out here pretty soon that my insinuations are totally false. But because they ended up in the most recent amendments, I'm not so sure. I think there's some things that could be there. I don't know. But on your other thing, I think what's going to happen, and when you're talking about the college football schedule, yearly schedule, I think what's going to happen is once some order, well, gosh, I'm talking about college football in order. That's not a realistic thing. If they're successful in creating a good model, they need to have it where it's set up like the NFL. The NFL is a year-long thing, you know. Mm-hmm. You have the draft, you have free agency, you have mini camps, you have different periods. You have the season. When you start thinking about it, and then you also have preseason. So technically, in the NFL, there's only a couple of months a year where it's kind of quiet, and it's really not even quiet. There's a lot of build up to it. There's the combine. There's just a lot of things. And I think you're right. I think if college football is smart, they'll do the same thing. I would do probably like you say, a July or August early signing day. Mm-hmm. And then you have the late signing period. And then you have probably two transfer portal periods. The problem you have with the transfer portal is these kids want to get transferred in for spring practice, for off-season conditioning in spring into their new universities, which means they have to be transferred in to the start of the new semester. So that's usually always early January. So I don't know that you could really do much to change that, but early signing day, like you say, it either goes back to just signing day in February or it happens over the summer. Oh. And I think that's the most logical. And I think that's what they're going to do anyway.
Well, they got to do something. I mean, quick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, these coaches are exhausted. I mean, it's 12 months out of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, it ain't good. Yeah.
Anyway,
all right, man.
Like I said,
appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
You
all
got
right, bye-bye.
Three things I want to hit upon. One is congratulations to Bob's Reality, Mick Stevens, Jim Reese, Bob Swanger, and Kill Ball for becoming early peak members. So now you are entitled to watch an early peak membership videos. They look like this. If you haven't seen them, go to our YouTube channel. Have your notifications on. Be subscribed. Have your notifications on. College football's early peak. For those who are not a member yet, if you're interested, just go to the YouTube channel and hit the join button. There's a link in the description of this live show. Hit that link, join. So congratulations, all of you who have just become early peak members. Bob's Reality, Mick Stevens, Jim Reese, Bob Swanger, and Kill Ball. You are hereby knighted. Congratulations on that. There's a couple other things I want to get to here real quick. Steve Berkowitz put out a tweet just a few minutes ago. The University of Illinois labor law professor Michael Leroy suggests that the Monday's ruling could have impact on the NLRB Los Angeles office ongoing case against USC, the Pac-12, and the NCAA, which could have much broader implications. The NCAA and its leadership have to be deeply worried. That's from Steve Berkowitz, Illinois law professor. There's also one other thing I want to get to. Please, everybody, hold on. Hold on. What is interesting here, I don't know how reliable this reporting is. Don't know how reliable this is, but keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a swivel. This is coming from CFB Focus update. It now sounds more likely than not that Bill O'Brien leaves for the Boston College head coaching vacancy job. Remember, that job is open. Jeff Haley went to the NFL. Bill O'Brien interview is tomorrow. And the school hopes to have a coach named by the weekend. BC Eagles will offer in the neighborhood of $22 million for a 5-year contract. Again, I know that he's interviewing tomorrow, Bill O'Brien, and no doubt about it, he's the chalk. He's in that area. He knows that area. He's from that area. The question I have for everybody in the chat is, who's going to be the offensive coordinator position of Ohio State is suddenly going to become open? If Bill O'Brien, he's the offensive coordinator, right, for the Buckeyes. You've got this team with Will Howard, who's already going over the playbook. Quinshon Judkins going over the playbook. You got all these players coming in. They are getting themselves primed to win the Big Ten championship in the first year of the 18 team conference. But they're getting primed to win the national championship. They got a bunch of their defensive players back. Jack Sawyer, JT. They are stacked. And now, February 5th, they might lose their offensive coordinator. They might lose their offensive coordinator. Okay, let's say they do. Who are the Buckeyes going to get? Who are the Buckeyes going to get? Chip Kelly? Caleb Ramirez, Chip Kelly. Can Ryan Day and Chip Kelly exist in the same program, in the same locker room? Would Ryan Day give all that freedom over to Chip Kelly? Bill O'Brien worked with Nick Saban. So Bill O'Brien knew about how to... But Chip Kelly, man. And then if Bill O'Brien goes to Boston College, Chip Kelly then becomes offensive coordinator of the Buckeyes, and then you got the UCLA job open. And of course, I in my last early peak episode, Cloak and Dagger episode, which you can watch if you become a member, hit the join button. We talked about some candidates that could potentially be the next head coach of the UCLA Bruins. Jason Candle, good one. Jason Candle's going to get his spot, his opportunity at some time. Thank you, Mooncat. I appreciate it. Jared Jones, Mr. Buckeye. Now, is Jared Jones a long-time PATC member? Jared Jones, Mr. Jones. Do you want Chip Kelly to be your offensive coordinator? Or is it you just believe he's going to be the offensive coordinator? We do know, Mr. Jones, we do know, everybody, that Chip Kelly's doing all he can. All that he can to be somewhere else next year. I feel terrible for the UCLA football program because Chip Kelly's attempt to leave the program is out in public and it's only hurting the program. And once he leaves, there's going to be a 30-day window. It's getting late in the calendar, early in 2024, but they're best friends. Chip Kelly's like a father, very close. Yes, I've heard that. If you're Ryan Day, you bring Chip Kelly into the building tomorrow. A lot of support for Chip Kelly to become the Buckeyes offensive coordinator. Bob's reality, I've heard Chip Kelly too, but I do think that it will be him. More than likely, Day will just keep doing it. Caleb Ramirez, they're good friends. They're best friends. Have these best friends, have they coached together at this high level, head coach, offensive coordinator? Very interesting times. Very interesting time indeed. Okay, we're going to close up this live show. We've been on the air for 2 hours. Yesterday we did a 4-hour show. Today we're going to stick with the 2-hour show. But there's always a chance that we could come on late tonight just in case there's some big breaking news when it comes to Dallas, Texas. The 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame trying to figure out the college football playoff. All those issues that they got to figure out. So keep your head on a swivel, number one. Number two, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you have your notifications on. Follow us at Plug Empire on X. It's on the ticker at the bottom of your screen. Follow us on X. Make sure you subscribe, have your notifications on, because we're going to get some big news either way. Either Dallas, Texas, the whole thing goes pear-shaped, or everybody walks out of there, arms locked together, singing Kumbaya. It could go either way. I think it's going to be the Kumbaya. But maybe I'm just being naive. The fat guy from Minnesota, maybe just a little bit too optimistic. We shall see. So anyways, I want to thank you for the donations, for all your support. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for the wonderful phone calls and the incredible comments in the chat room. PATC community, you were not afraid to be legends tonight. I want to thank you. Until next time, which could be just right around the corner here at Peek Around the Corner. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you.